Hey guys, Sean coming with another Diablo Immortal video. This is going to be a fun one. I get asked all the time, why do I use Caarsons Invigoration with my Demon Hunter build versus using like Berserker's Eye, because I do have a max level 10 gem. I want to make sure to clarify why I'm using a level 1 max gem, and also I want to also clarify as to why I'm using the particular gem that I'm using, because I feel like a lot of people who are maybe say Dolphins or higher tier players are not necessarily using the same strategy as I am. But I want to make sure that you guys are aware of why I'm using this, because maybe it'll make more sense for you in your gameplay. All right, so we are back. Let me go ahead and let me move my head out of the way here. Let's shrink myself down. You will see that I am rocking the Caarsons Invigoration. You will see here also that in the screen here, basically Caarsons Invigoration is going to increase your resonance by 170 for mine, because I do have the gem resonance. I do have it on both of these here. Yeah. I also have where I have everything else related to them as well. So I also have, for example, if we go ahead and we go to the Caarsons Invigoration, you can see that increase the speed of your primary attack by 16% and the damage of your primary attack by 2%. Increase magic find. This is a level 1 gem, so this is a little bit easier for some people who are more free to play. The reason why I'm using this gem over Berserker's Eye is because of a few different reasons, mainly because primary attack as a Demon Hunter makes the most sense for myself. The 2% extra attack is great. Also, not having that the negative impact from the more damage taken by the Berserker's Eye is huge. For a lot of people, they come back and they say, well, what about your crit damage? Well, yes, your crit damage does get modified a little bit more if you go with your Berserker's Eye. However, with Caarsons Invigoration, it's your primary attack speed. So even if you do crit, like, you get more chance to crit because you're being more repetitive with damage, right? So if I go ahead and I show you guys, I have a spreadsheet that I made up. This is going to be the link here. You'll see this. I will make an article actually on diablopro.gg where we talk more about this. And it's basically, as you can see here, we have Berserker's Eye. If I go with a base damage of 20k, base damage speed per second of 1, because there's no modifier there for the base speed for Berserker's Eye. If I do the damage modifier of 1.16, that's because you get a 16% damage modifier increase from Berserker's Eye. This gives you a total damage output of about 23,200. Now, if we go and we talk about Caarsons Invigoration, it's going to be a little bit different, right? Because Caarsons Invigoration does increase the actual speed that you get to attack, right? It increases your speed by 16%, which then means that you get to attack more and more faster, right? Damage modifier is 2% skill damage, so basically you can negate that a little bit different between what is actually happening with Berserker's Eye and what's happening with Caarsons Invigoration. And you actually see that you get 23,664. Now, I do want to note with this right here and right now, the fact that, yes, I do understand that in some cases, Berserker's Eye is going to be better than Caarsons Invigoration. However, as a Demon Hunter, the most common skill that you're going to be using is your primary attack. Vengeance relies heavily on it. You're modifying it the most. So Caarsons Invigoration, for me as a Demon Hunter, is going to be the go-to. Now, other classes that could benefit from Caarsons Invigoration, it's going to vary depending on your playstyle. I think the Monk, maybe even the Barbarian, would benefit with Caarsons versus Berserker's Eye. However, characters like the Satyr, who is meant to take hits and is going to pair with Blessing of the Worthy, is meant to have Berserker's Eye. The Necro, who really relies on other things like summons, which is really going to rely on Berserker's Eye. And even Wizard with channeling abilities is going to rely more on Berserker's Eye than on Caarsons Invigoration. There's definitely a circumstantial or a tall tale sign as to which one you really want to be using that's going to benefit you the most. So I really want you to be aware of what is the difference here, right? Like, I'm showing a general breakdown of, okay, what is the difference between Berserker's Eye versus Caarsons Invigoration. On top of that, I'm also breaking down the difference between damage per second. Now, damage per second is going to vary, right? Because we do know that primary attacks sometimes don't last exactly the second, but overall, linearly, it should wash out. However, there are definitely instances where sometimes these gems are very interchangeable, right? I would actually highly recommend any free-to-play player to be using both of these gems instead of just the one. If you are someone who's more like me and more of an in-game player, I would probably say take a look at what class you are and see what makes the most difference for your playstyle. Me personally, I use my primary more than I use any other skill in the entire roster, so Caarsons is the way to go, especially on a demon hunter, for everyone who's watching and asking this question. But when it comes to other classes, it's definitely circumstantial, so keep that in mind on what builds you are using, because depending on what build you're using is whether or not going to be use Caarsons or Berserker's Eye. So definitely keep that in mind and note that process. But the one thing that I do want to point out, and it's funny, is the fact that both of these are level 1 or tier 1 gems, basically, right? They're not tier 2, they're not 5-star gems, they're level 1. You raise them up to 10. The reason why I do this and why I love both of these gems is because I can actually go ahead and let me put away my stats page here. I can actually get these up to the resonance level, right? So this is also doing primary attack damage for me and skill damage increased by 2%. So what does this do for me? Like, I'm literally a demon hunter who is modifying with Caarsons Invigoration the primary attack damage that I'm doing anyways. On top of, I'm getting the resonance up higher to increase the primary attack, as well as skill damage is increased by 2% because I have the double resonance. I do understand that I'm sacrificing a lot of resonance as a demon hunter. I fully understand this. I do have the gems to go ahead and modify this, right? I could come in here and I could say, let's go Phoenix of the Ashes. Let's go Chip of the Stone Flesh, and let's change a couple of our legendary pieces of gear so that we would get more damage, right? Those are all very viable possibilities and situations that I could do as a champion, right? Whether it's Demon Hunter, Crusader, Barbarian, whatever the case may be. But the thing I want to note with this is the fact that it doesn't matter. There is a cap when you look at the actual, what is the stats that you get here. When you look at more attributes, right, and you look at combat rating, you can see that my combat rating is currently, hold a second. My combat rating is currently a difference of 1,225 higher than what it should be. So this only gives me a 22% difference. Now, if I were to go down to, say, 500 difference, it doesn't give me that much of a difference in percentage here. So it's not like it's in the world that I'm not necessarily worrying about it, right? I do understand a lot of people will argue that, hey, resonance scales higher, so Berserker's Eye will scale even higher with you, because Berserker's Eye will actually benefit the skills that you use. I will not disagree with that even in a second. Berserker's Eye will modify your skills damage. So for example, my multi-shot here, if I were to pull up my handy dandy calculator, and do the math here, what is this, 7,336. If I multiply that by the, let's say 0.14, because that's the difference between the two. This means my Berserker's Eye will do an additional, or my multi-shot will do an additional 1,000 damage because of Berserker's Eye. I'm not going to argue that point. The point I will argue is that there is about 7-second cooldown on my current build for that. So within 7 seconds, I can get probably 1, maybe 2 more attacks off of my primary. Versus the 1 for multi-shot. So it's really, honestly, it's almost apples to apples. But there is other ones, right? So because I have multi-shot and Reign of Vengeance, right? Reign of Vengeance is going to be the same thing. If I bring up my handy dandy calculator again, this is 20,448, right? And then if I multiply this by 0.14, what does this do? This gives me 2,862 damage. So you can get a massive damage increase from Berserker's Eye versus Caarsons Invigoration. However, you really need to be conscious of what is the cooldown on these abilities that you're using. Is it actually work out better for you? You may want to take this spreadsheet that I have here and actually take this spreadsheet and maybe do a few more studies of your own. Like, hey, what is this time per second? What is this actual build damage? I'll probably end up doing a better spreadsheet later on where I calculate a lot of these more in further depth. But from initial readings and understanding of how this all works, I'm myself more prone to use Caarsons Invigoration, mainly just because I'm a demon hunter. For everyone else, it may be a little bit different. You may want to go to Berserker's Eye. But I find that by using this class, it allows me the flexibility and the freedom to really utilize more of my current build than it would if I used Berserker's Eye. Because the problem with Berserker's Eye is, yes, you do get 16% more damage. You get 2% more crit rate. However, what you lose is the fact that you take a lot more damage. Demon Hunters are already squishy. We aren't a Crusader. Crusader is going to benefit from Berserker's Eye because you're going to use it with the Worthy Gem, right? You're literally going to use, like, if you are a Crusader, this Blessing of the Worthy is the best gem that you can use with this Crusader. So you're going to pair this with the two. So this means Berserker Eye and Blessing of the Worthy work really, really well together because as you take damage, you spend more damage, right? So that's where they kind of work hand in hand, and it works great. However, as a demon hunter, this doesn't make any sense for me myself. I really need to be going with Caarsons Invigoration. I know if we talk to a lot of other content creators, it's going to be kind of like a toss of the hands, like which one's better and which one's not. I think it's pretty evenly balanced when we definitely look at the spreadsheet, right? Because you can see here that the damage modifiers is about 400 something, and that's very minimal, right? So I would say out of both of these gyms, I would honestly, they're the two best free-to-play gyms or two best one-star gyms in the game, in my personal opinion. I will definitely do a gyms tier list later on and break down every single second of that tier list and explain more and more and more as to why I feel this is the case. But I do feel like in this particular case, I wanted to do this video because I want you guys to be aware of why am I using Caarsons Invigoration over Berserker's Eye, and why am I using this on top of using 5-star gems. And the main reason is because of the damage multiplier that I'm going to actually get from the speed increase and from the damage increase. Versus if I were just to go with like this Phoenix of the Ashes, in my case, all this would be doing for me is really just adding a little bit more damage overall, where this Berserker's Eye gives me more of that altogether anyways. So it's not really worth it myself personally to sacrifice that additional resources for these versus using the 1-star gem. So keep that in mind when you're building your own character. Also keep in mind that there is a cap. Like, this isn't like, a lot of people complain about, oh, you gotta get the most combat rating, you gotta get the most combat rating. You really don't, unless you're playing PvP. PvP is a totally different scenario, a totally different topic. PvE content, however, you don't need to be this 1200 above. So if I go ahead and I hide this away, you don't need to be this 1200 above. You really don't. With this 1200 above, what this means is the fact that you're kind of limiting yourself. You're hitting a soft cap as it is, and you're doing way too much work. So a lot of people, and I know I see a lot of comments where like, hey, you don't have triples on your gear. Well, no, I don't need it. Like, I'm literally, like, look how high above the recommended I am. All I would be doing is just wasting a lot more time and resources to get those triples that don't translate directly into PvE content, and I don't like PvP. So if I don't do a whole lot of PvP, it doesn't do me any good. However, if you, the viewer, is a PvP person, then yes, you need to be doing this, obviously. But as a PvE player, it is what it is. This doesn't really do me a whole lot of good to be above the recommended. So keep that in mind when you're picking what gem you want to use. And hopefully this video helps you decide on what you're using. Also, and just enlightens you a little bit more on what the difference is between Caarsons Invigoration and Berserker Eye. Stay tuned. I will have a guide on diablopro.gg actually breaking down this summary. And I am totally not saying which one is better in this case, right? We talked about Berserker's Eye could be a lot more damage scaling in the long run. However, for a Demon Hunter, I feel like Caarsons is the way to go. But you, the viewer, is totally entitled to choose whatever one you feel is best. But honestly, in my personal opinion, they're about apples to apples as far as actual damage and output and effectiveness on your character. So keep that in mind when you're going ahead and progressing your character. And once again, have a good rest of your day. I can't wait to see you guys in the next Diablo Immortal video. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.